Chair, members and guests. And I think the guests outnumber the members tonight. CIA. Did I ever work for the CIA? I didn't know that I did. But according to the president of Liberia, I was definitely working for the CIA because he didn't want me being able to have access to people in Liberia because I was going to be building 26 radio stations for the people. So I was CIA, therefore everyone had to stay clear. You know, don't go near any CIA. Which is fine, but then he said, you will not leave the city, you will not have meetings with Liberians, only with expats. Right? Oh, and you're going to have 2 secret policemen with you. Oh, secret policemen. God. These guys, tall, black suit, black shades, black boots. Slightly conspicuous.
Men in black.
Yeah, anyway, they followed me everywhere. You know, they sort of, which is quite amusing really, sort of around the city. I wasn't allowed outside the city, but it did get silly at one stage because we had this ongoing game where I was trying to outwit them. And I did a couple of times, but I got caught once and I got a bit of a whacking for it. You know, I shouldn't have done it really. But it's made me realise that these guys meant business. Although they were sort of friendly, they were going to do their job. So, do secret police have any real use? Well, not really, not the way they were working, but they did once help me out. Because I had a habit of going into the market in Monrovia and having a cup of tea. Now, tea is rather special. What you do is, there's lots of little booths, so you sit at a booth and the guy asks you if you want to have Indian tea or other. So I always used to ask for Indian, not knowing what I was getting, but this is how it works. You have a plastic cup, handful of tea leaves, boiling water into another cup, evaporated milk, sugar into the other cup, into the other cup, into the other cup, and then he would hand it over and you could drink it. Well, eventually they got used to the idea that I didn't want the evaporated milk and I didn't want the sugar, just the tea and boiling water, so that was great. So there it was, sitting down, having my tea one afternoon, and this guy ambled up to me and said, "Papers? Where are your papers?" Down at my house. You're supposed to have them with you. I said, no, they're in my safe. He said, of course, you haven't got any papers because you're a spy. Well, he hadn't heard about me being CIA, but he thought I was a spy. So I said, now come on, I'm white, everybody here is black, how can I possibly be a spy? He said, doesn't matter, you're going to come to the police station with me now. That's the last thing you want to do. You do not want to be in an African police station. So I thought, got it. Why don't you go and talk to those chaps in black over there? And they will tell you that I'm not a spy. So off he went. A few minutes later, he was back. Oh, so apologetic. Oh, I didn't know the president was looking after you personally. Oh dear. And sort of off he goes. So that's the one time that secret police did something good for me. They actually got me off being dragged into the jail. So what was I really there for? I said earlier, 25 radio stations. Why do you need radio stations? You don't have newspapers that you can get in the country because the roads are incredibly bad. 150 miles to a place called Vondoama up in the north of the country took anything from 2 days plus. So you just don't drive anywhere, no aircraft going there. So radio would be the way to do things. And also radio allows you to have your own local language. It also meant that you'd get non-propaganda news stories, because most of the stories on the news were propaganda from the President's office. And so my job, first of all, was to design the radio stations based on the materials that we had. Second job was recruiting the people. Now, it's interesting because I'm a mechanical, electrical, electronic and chemical engineer and an RF engineer. So they hired me because they knew that there'd be one person's salary and they wouldn't have to pay for all the others. So that's why I got the job. It happened quite regularly, that did. So I had to design it. I designed it and we then tried the first station. But, as I said, we were limited in what we could do because the President didn't want us doing anything. So we had all the bits lined up and we knew where we were going to do it, but it was about 20 miles outside Monrovia, so we couldn't actually do it. But what I did was spend a lot of time recruiting people for the radio team. Now, these stations were only for the people. Nothing to do with us. We designed, built, trained. From then on, they had to do the whole thing themselves, fund it, etc. And so what we did was get one team, which were the advisory board, who put together the scheme of how they were going to fund it, how they were going to recruit, what kind of music or programs they were going to do. Next team were the trainers. Uncle Blamo was my head trainer. He was great. He's 6'6". He used to be the Deputy Director General of the LBC radio station, which is a national station. And when I asked him why on earth was he applying for a job with us, he said, because you might pay me. And that was just quite true. So anyway, poor old Blamo, he got the job and had to go roaming around the country training journalists. Of course, I couldn't go, but he could. And so that started. And then I managed to recruit another guy in a pub. And that's the best place to meet people is in pubs. And so I went into this pub, because I used to use all the local pubs to get to know people. And I was in this pub having a drink with somebody, and I said, you know, I really have problems getting hold of an RF engineer. I mean, I don't want to be doing this myself. I want to get someone I can show and get them off on their own doing it. And the little voice said, you looking for an engineer? I said, yeah. And this guy was a Pakistani. And he's a bit odd in Liberia, but Pakistani. Yeah, I did RF engineering at Portsmouth. So on board comes my friend Roland Paul, and he was our #1 man. Then, of course, it was any others we can get. Well, we had this security guard who looked after us. He was an electrician and electronics engineer. I didn't know. Someone gave me a DVD and said, can you sort it? And I looked at it and said, yeah, you've got a misalignment on the laser. I'll do it when I come back. So he gave it to someone else in the place who said he could do it. He fixed it, and when I came back, I said, how come he fixed it? Because he's an electronics engineer. He's not really a security man. He can't get a job. So CIA, radio stations, training, brilliant time I had, absolutely brilliant. And unfortunately, war broke out. And I had to go to the EU embassy and get rescued by the French Special Forces. But that's another story.
Thank you, Brian. Very different story. Not a garden party there.
No, afraid not.
I went to Portsmouth University. That's my link to that. Cool. Okay. Thank you. What was the time, please?
8:33.
8:33. Okay. How are we doing for time?
Did you want questions?
Well, if they want to do questions, you can do, yes. Because it's a bit like a description, yeah.
Any questions?
Which war was it that broke out?
Oh, the war. That was the war between Charles Taylor, the president, and the rebels, Lurds, which was the Liberation United Reform group, and there was another called Model, which was the French group. And they decided to attack because they had enough of Charles Taylor and the way he was ruling the country. He was appalling. He was just killing people left, right and centre. He got done at The Hague for crimes against humanity because his idea of warfare was very simple. Don't kill people. If you kill people, they're dead and you bury them. Chop off their hands or their feet and they become a liability to their communities. So What are you messing about at? Chop off their hands or feet. Yeah.
Brian, you might have mentioned this, and apologies if you did. Why did the President not want you to have any contact with the local population?
Yeah. The reason for it was that he really didn't want any risk of the locals getting information that was accurate. And the only information they got was from the international radio stations, who didn't do much on Liberia. And the radio stations in Monrovia were all owned by the President.